Hi guys, welcome to Patrick Pan channel. In this video, you'll learn how to integrate the OpenAI DALL-E API with a React app. Alright, let's get started. So before we jumping into coding, let's first understand what is DALL-E API. The OpenAI just released its DALL-E API, where users can generate custom images by just typing in a query. The way DALL-E API works is just search for these images that are related to the keywords that we are typing, and then it will use artificial intelligence to merge all the images into one and then serve it to us. Now let's learn how you can integrate this DALL-E API into your React application. Alright guys, first you need to set up your React application. So I'm gonna use ReactJS for set up my React project. Alright, let's open your terminal and then cd to desktop, and I'm gonna use npm create vid add latest and then name your project. I'm gonna use react-dall-e. Hit enter and then select a framework. I'm gonna use React, and select a variant. I'm gonna use JavaScript. That's it. So now let's go to this folder. We're gonna cd to react.js-dall-e. Hit enter and use this command to install all dependencies that we need. npm I. Okay, and wait a second. So after we finishing install the dependencies, let's open our project into VS Code. I'm gonna use code dot, and it will open your VS Code. Okay. Next, we're gonna go to view and go to terminal. Just open your terminal in VS Code and using this command npm run dev to running our React application. Okay, let's go to this URL. Alright, so right now we have our React application up and running. Okay, so next we're gonna create our UI component. Let's go to src folder and go to app.jsx file, and then change the state to prompt and change the setCount function to setPrompt. So the initial state we're gonna change it to empty string. So inside this div, get rid of this code and then create h2. So the title, I'm gonna type generate an image using OpenAI API. Okay, next we're gonna create text area tag, and then I'm gonna get rid of this attribute. So we're gonna change this tag to a single tag like this, and then we're gonna create our placeholder attribute and type let's generate image. Alright, and then I'm gonna create button. So in this button we're gonna have the on click event. So when we click this button, we're gonna fire a function to generate image for us. Okay, so in this button we're gonna name our button to generate an image. Alright, hit save and then go back to Chrome. So as you can see, we have our UI like this. Alright, let's using br tag right there. Okay, cool. So the next step, let's go to this website openai.com/API, and we're gonna integrate the DALL-E API into our React application. Okay, so just go to this website and then go to login. Okay, I'm gonna use continue with Google and choose an account. Alright, after you sign up and log in, you will go to this page. Okay, so next we need API key. So how we can create our API key? Just go to your account, personal right there, and then go to view API keys. Okay, and then click this button, create new secret key. As you can see, API key generated. Just click copy this API key and click OK, and go back to VS Code. Inside this root directory, just create .env file, and we're gonna store our API key in this file. I'm gonna create our variable to store it. Okay, we're gonna name it vid_open_ai_key, and we're gonna store our API key like this. Alright, cool. Hit save and close this file. Alright, after we store our API key in this file, we need to install OpenAI SDK in our React application. Okay, let's go to this plus icon and click new terminal. So I'm gonna use npm I OpenAI. So we're gonna install this dependency. Okay, hit enter and wait a second. Alright, after we finishing install, let's go to our app.jsx file and then import. So we're gonna need two functions from OpenAI. The first function that we need is configuration, and the second function is OpenAI API, and we're gonna import from OpenAI like this. And next we need to create a configuration variable which will take the API key from the .env file. Alright, let's go inside our app component and we're gonna create a configuration variable. So I'm gonna create a variable called configuration and then use new keyword, and we're gonna call this configuration constructor like this, and we're gonna pass the API key to this constructor. Let's create API key property. Next step, we're gonna use import.meta.env.with underscore open underscore AI underscore key to import our API key from this env file. Okay, and then we need to pass this configuration instance to the OpenAI API and create a new instance for OpenAI API. Okay, we're gonna create variable called OpenAI, and we're gonna new and call OpenAI API, and we're gonna pass the configuration to this constructor like this. Alright, that's it. So the next step, let's go back to our UI. So inside this text area, when we type our query, we need to update value to our state, right? So let's use onChain event to receive data from this text area, and then we're gonna use the setPrompt function to update data from text area into our prompt state. Okay, so let's use onChain event, and then we're gonna receive one parameter which is e or event, and we're gonna return, and we need to call this setPrompt function to update text area value. So how we can receive value from this text area, we're gonna use the e and dot target and dot value. That's it. So if you want to make sure that our state is updating, let's console.log. Okay, I'm gonna console.log prompt state like this, and hit save, go back to Chrome and go back to our application, right click and inspect and go to console. Okay, and let's go to this text area, just type something, testing. As you can see, our state already updating whenever we type in this text area input. And next, let's see how we can sending the request to API and receive the response, which is the image, right? Let's go back to VS Code, and we're gonna create function called generate image. Let's create below this variable OpenAI, we're gonna create const generate image. So this function is a async function and return. So when we're sending request, we're gonna use create image method from OpenAI. So let's create variable called res, which is response, and we're gonna await. And then we're gonna use this OpenAI instance. We can call this method dot create image. When we call this method, we're gonna sending a request to the server, and this method it's gonna return some data. So I'm gonna show you how we can access the data that we want, which is the URL, because we want to display image, right? So before we sending request, let's go to OpenAI document and let's see how we can implement this API. Go to documentation and go to images. Okay, inside a request body, it has 5 properties that you can use. The first property is prompt, second is end, third is size, fourth is response format, and the last one is user. But I'm gonna use these 3 property, prompt, end, and size. The prompt is a string and required. It is a text description of the desired images that we want, and the maximum length is 1000 characters, and the n is integer, so this is optional. The n is the number of images that you want to generate, and it must be between 1 and 10. And the last one that we gonna using is size. Size is string and it's optional. Default value is 1024. So the size is the size of the generated images must be 1 of 256 or 512 or 1024. Okay. And one thing I want to let you guys know that whenever you sending a request, so the pricing, you can go to your account and then go to manage account, so you can see how much you using this request. So it has free trial usage, okay? So we can use as much as we want, but under $18, okay? So if you want to see the pricing of this API, just go to openai.com/API and go to pricing menu. And as you can see, the price is depending on the resolution that you use, as you can see right there. Okay, anyway, let's go back to our application. So as I told you before, whenever we call this method, it's gonna return response, okay? And we're gonna send some value. So the first property that we're gonna use is prompt, okay? So let's create prompt property. So the prompt is the query that we type, and the value is from our prompt state. So we're gonna store it to prompt property like this. And then next, the n is the number of image, right? By default, we're gonna use one image that we want to generate. And the last one is size, so I'm gonna use 512 and 512, okay? And then I'm gonna console.log the response to show you the data that we will receive, okay? Hit save, and then we're gonna call this function whenever we click this button, okay? So let's pass this function to our button. All right, cool. Hit save and go back to Chrome. Go back to our application, refresh. I'm gonna type like handsome programmer, okay? And hit generate an image. And then just wait a second. Alright, as you can see, this is the response that we received. Okay, let's see what we got. It has config data, headers, request, status, and status text. But we're gonna access to this data property. And then we're gonna access to this data array. And then we're gonna access to this URL, which is the image that AI generated for us. Okay, you can go to this URL. Okay, I'm gonna show you what the picture that looks like. Okay, wow, this is handsome programmer that AI generated. So now we know that we want to access this data property and then this data array and then this URL. Okay, let's go back to our VS Code. So we're gonna store our new data, which is the URL that we want to use to display to application. Okay, so let's create new state. I'm gonna create a state called result and set result. So the initial state, I'm gonna use empty string, okay? And then let's use set result function to update our state. So let's take the response variable and then we're gonna access to this data, okay? And then we're gonna access to this data array and index 0, right? Okay, and access to URL like this. And the last step is to display our image to our application. Okay, let's go to this div and I'm gonna create HR tag and then I'm gonna check data. So let's take the result state and I'm gonna check the length of this result. If it's greater than 0, which is it has data, right? If it's true, I'm gonna create img tag and then we're gonna display our image, create src attribute, and I'm gonna access to URL property, which is our image. So we're gonna use result state and create alt text and we're gonna pass the result like this. Okay, but if the result it has no data, we're gonna display some info. I'm gonna use no data. Okay, cool. Hit save and go back to our Chrome. Okay, as you can see right now we don't have any data yet, so let's generate some image. So I'm gonna type galaxy and spaceship, okay, and then click on this button, generate an image, and wait a second. Alright, cool. As you can see, the AI from DALL-E API generate image that we query to us like this. So beautiful. Alright guys, that's it about in this video that I want to show you how you can integrate the DALL-E API from OpenAI to React application. I hope this video is helpful and I hope you guys learn something new. And if this video is helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you guys soon in the next video.